My name is Diana Parker. I am 32. 3 weeks ago, I was standing in a ballroom with about 150 people. My dad's coworkers, business friends, and people who's known our family forever. When my mom leaned into the mic and said, "Well, at least Diana found a husband, even if we still don't know what he does for work," the whole room laughed. My dad smiled like it was cute. My sister smirked. And my husband, the man they've treated like a nobody for 4 years, slowly pushed his chair back and stood up. What happened next made my dad's business partner drop her wine glass, made my mom turn pale, and made my sister finally understand why I never asked our parents for money. Before I tell you what happened, hit like and subscribe, only if you're really enjoying this kind of story. And tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Anyway, this started 6 years ago, the night I met Marcus. I was 26, drained after a full day of parent-teacher meetings, and honestly desperate for coffee. The cafe near my school was packed, but there was one open chair across from a man typing fast on his laptop, like the world depended on it. I pointed to the seat and asked, "Can I sit here?" He looked up, dark eyes, kind smile, and said, "Sure." We didn't talk much that first day. He worked, I graded papers, but when I stood up to leave, he said, "Same time tomorrow." I came back. He did too. For 2 months we shared that same little table. He told me he worked in education. I told him I taught 3rd grade. He never asked about my family's money. I never asked about his. And for the first time in my life, someone saw me. Not my father's company. Not my sister's shadow. Just me. When Marcus finally asked me to go to dinner, I said yes before he even finished asking. We dated for 2 years. Nothing fancy. Simple dinners, farmers markets, movie nights. He cooked for me in his small apartment, and I fell in love with the way he listened. Like he truly cared about every word, especially when I talked about my students. When he proposed, I didn't tell my parents for 3 weeks because I already knew their reaction. He works in education, my mom said, like it was bad news. What does that even mean? It means he helps kids learn, I said. She sighed. So he's a teacher like you. Then she hit me with the line she always used. "Diana, I had bigger hopes for you." Marcus never pushed me to explain more about him. One time I asked why, and he held my hand and said, "I don't want them to like me for what I have. I want them to like me for who I am." Back then I didn't fully get it, but I learned fast that in my family, your value is counted in money. So I stopped bringing people I loved into that ugly math. The warning signs were always there. I just didn't want to face them. Every Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthday dinner, it was the same routine. "Madison, tell everyone about the Henderson deal," my mom would say, glowing like my sister had won an award. $2 million. Can you believe it? Madison would toss her hair and tell some story about negotiations, and everyone would lean in, like she just solved world hunger. And then my mom would look at me and say, "And Diana, you're still teaching." She said teaching the way people say jobless. "3rd grade, I'd answer, trying to stay calm. "I have this student, Emma. 6 months ago she couldn't read. Last week she finished her first chapter book, and my mom would barely look up. 'That's nice, dear,' she'd say, already checking her phone. That was sign number 1. Sign number 2 hurt even more. Last spring my students did a play. They practiced for months, memorizing lines, painting sets, making costumes out of cardboard and glitter. I invited my parents. "Dad, it's on the 15th at 3 o'clock. I really want you there." He glanced at his calendar and said, "I have real meetings, Diana. Maybe next time." Meanwhile, he visited Madison's office 12 times that year. I counted. The Sunday before the play, Madison leaned in at brunch and whispered, "You know Dad's disappointed, right? You had the same chances I did." I wanted to scream because our chances were never the same. She wanted power. I just wanted to matter. But I smiled and stayed quiet. Marcus was sitting right beside me. He heard everything. That night he held me and said, "Your worth isn't decided by them." I wanted to believe him, but I didn't realize those small embarrassments were just the beginning. The retirement party is where everything finally blew up. The invite came on a Tuesday. An email, not even a real card. You are cordially invited to celebrate Robert Parker's retirement after 40 years of excellence in real estate development. Madison got a handwritten invitation delivered by courier. I know because she posted it on Instagram. That evening my mom called and said, "Diana, we need to talk about seating." "Okay," I said. "You and Marcus will be at table 14, she told me. I pulled up the venue map. Table 14 was way in the back near the kitchen doors. "Mom, that's the farthest table from the stage. We have important guests," she said. "The Walshes are coming. The Hendersons people. Your father actually does business with." I swallowed hard. "Fine." Then she added, "And Diana, wear something nice. There will be people who matter." She paused like she was choosing her words, then said, "Try not to talk too much about your little school. These people have real careers." Then she hung up. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed staring at my phone, feeling small. Marcus walked in, took one look at my face, and said, "They put us near the kitchen, didn't they?" I nodded. He asked, "Do you still want me to come?" Part of me wanted to protect him from my family, but another part of me, this tired, quiet part I'd been pushing down for years, didn't want to stand alone anymore. So I whispered, "Yes, please." Marcus sat beside me and took my hand. "I've stayed quiet for 4 years because you asked me to," he said, calm but serious. "But if they hurt you again, I'm not just going to sit there." His voice sounded steady, but underneath it, there was something stronger. Something I hadn't heard before. I asked him, "Marcus, what are you?" He looked right at me and said, "I think it's time." "Time for what?" I didn't push. Maybe I was scared of the answer. The night before the party, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the future, about the kids Marcus and I wanted someday, and what I'd teach them. Would I teach them to stay quiet while someone humiliates them? To smile while being treated like they don't matter? To believe their value depends on a job title or a bank account? No, never. So why was I still living like that myself? I thought about our last family dinner. Madison announced her promotion. Senior VP at my dad's company. Everyone cheered. Champagne popped then. Then she leaned toward me and whispered loud enough for the whole table to hear, "Diana married down. At least, I'm dating someone with ambition." Marcus was right there. He heard it all. His jaw tightened. But he stayed quiet because I begged him not to cause drama. Later that night, when we got home, I found him standing at the window, staring out at the city lights. "I'm sorry," I told him. "I should have." He turned and said, "Don't apologize for them." Then he added, "Diana, you need to understand something. This can't keep going like this." He was right. The next morning I checked my email and saw something my mom accidentally forwarded me. An email she meant to send Madison 3 days earlier. "Make sure Diana sits at the back table. We don't want her husband making small talk with the Walshes. God knows what he'll say about his education job." I read it 3 times. Each time it hurt worse. And that's when it hit me. Silence isn't peace. Silence is permission. Permission for them to keep hurting me and hurting us. Something had to change. And that retirement party was going to be the turning point. One way or another. The Hartwell Hotel ballroom was exactly my father's style. Huge, expensive, made to impress. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, a 1-2-piece orchestra playing soft jazz, 150 guests, in designer dresses and perfect suits, all there to celebrate Robert Parker's 4 decades of excellence. Marcus and I got there at 7. He wore a clean, simple navy suit. I wore a plain black dress I'd bought on sale 3 years ago. At the entrance, my mom was greeting people like she owned the place, smiling like a queen meeting her subjects. She was covered in emeralds, real emeralds. When she saw me, she did that fake air kiss on my cheek and said, "Diana, you came." "Of course," I said. "It's Dad's retirement." Her eyes quickly moved to Marcus. "And you brought him?" "My husband," I said. She forced a tight smile. "Table 14 in the back." "We know," I answered. We walked through the crowd and I felt it instantly. The looks, the whispers. That same old label stamped on me. Robert Parker's older daughter, the teacher. Married to nobody important. Near the stage I saw Madison in a red designer gown with diamond earrings, standing close to my dad like she was the main event. She noticed me and gave a tiny wave. the kind that feels polite but somehow still insulting. Table 14, Marcus muttered under his breath. How convenient. And it was worse than I expected. Not just near the kitchen, almost inside it. Servers kept squeezing past, and we had to pull our chairs in every time someone walked by with trays. As we sat down, the woman at the table next to us turned around. Sharp eyes, expensive suit. I recognized her right away. Jennifer Walsh, one of my dad's biggest business partners. She looked at Marcus like she was trying to remember something. Have we met? She asked him. Marcus smiled politely. I don't think so. But she kept staring. Then she pulled out her phone and started scrolling fast, like she was searching for proof. Her face changed, first confused, then surprised, then, like she'd seen a ghost. Before she could say anything, the lights dimmed and the room began to quiet. My dad walked onto the stage, and right before he could even speak, Madison showed up at our table, holding a champagne glass, like it was a weapon. Diana, she said, smiling too hard. You actually came? Why wouldn't I? I asked, just shocked. That's all, she said. These kinds of events aren't really your thing. Then her eyes slid to Marcus. Nice suit. Outlet? Marcus stayed calm. No, just simple. Simple, right? Madison said with a laugh. Then she tilted her head. So, Marcus, remind me, what do you do again? I work in education, he said. Education, she repeated slowly, letting the word hang in the air like it was a joke, like tutoring, SAT prep, something like that. She smiled wider. So basically you and Diana are the same birds of a feather. She laughed at herself like she was the funniest person in the room. Well, at least you two have each other. I felt my chest heat up. My hands shook under the table. Madison, I said quietly. Don't you have somewhere else to be? Relax, she said, taking a sip. I'm just talking. Dad's about to speak. Try not to look bored. There are photographers. Then she walked away, swaying like she'd won. Under the table, Marcus reached for my hand. His grip was steady, strong. You okay? He asked. No, I whispered. Do you want to leave? I looked at my dad on the stage, my mom smiling from the front row, Madison already placing herself where the cameras could catch her best angle. Not yet, I said. I need to stay. Marcus nodded slowly. She has no idea what she's laughing at, he murmured. That's the sad part. I didn't understand what he meant. Not then. The orchestra went quiet. The room settled. My dad tapped the microphone. Welcome everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. All 150 faces turned toward the stage, smiling like they were ready for a show. And there I was, stuck in the back by the kitchen, holding my husband's hand, telling myself maybe this time would be different. It wasn't. It was worse. My father was always good at speeches, strong voice, confident, the kind that makes people lean forward. 40 years, he began. 40 years of building something from nothing. 40 years of deals, negotiations, and yes, a few sleepless nights. People chuckled politely. Then he lifted his hand toward the front. But I didn't do it alone. My wife Helen, my rock, my partner. My mom put a hand to her chest like she was in a movie. Then my dad's voice got louder with pride. And my daughter, Madison. My legacy at the company. Senior Vice President at 28. The future of Parker Real Estate. Madison half stood like she was accepting an award. Cameras flashed. Madison has exceeded every expectation. My dad continued. She has my drive, my instincts. And honestly, my ruthlessness. More laughter. More applause. And I sat there waiting. Hoping. Then he said, of course, family is more than business. I'm blessed with 2 daughters. My heart lifted for a second. Maybe, just maybe, he was going to say something kind. His eyes found me across the ballroom. He smiled. But it was the smile he saved for difficult clients. And Diana, my eldest, he paused too long. She's still trying to figure out what to do with her life. A few laughs scattered across the room, awkward laughs, the kind that make your stomach drop. But we love her anyway, he added, like it was a punchline. My face went cold. I felt the blood drain out of me as 150 people stared. Some looked amused. Some looked sorry. Some just looked curious. like I was the less interesting version of my sister. Marcus's hand tightened around mine. When I looked at him, his face was hard like stone. My father didn't even glance back. He moved on like nothing happened. Now let me tell you about our plans for the foundation. But he wasn't finished with me. Not really. While my dad talked on and on about donations and tax benefits, Jennifer Walsh kept staring at Marcus, seriously staring. Not casual, not curious. Focused, like she was putting pieces together. She looked down at her phone, then back up at him, scrolling, zooming in, comparing. I tried to listen to my dad's speech, but Jennifer's attention felt too loud to ignore. Finally, she leaned across the small space between our tables. "Excuse me," she whispered. "I'm sorry, but I have to ask. Are you sure we've never met?" Marcus shook his head. "I'm pretty sure." "You look so familiar," she said, and then she tilted her phone toward him like she wanted confirmation. Before he could answer, my father's voice cut through from the stage. "Is that Jennifer?" He laughed into the mic. "Care to share with the class?" Jennifer snapped her phone down, startled. "Just checking emails, Robert. Please continue." My father chuckled. "Always working. That's why I love you, Jen." The room laughed again, and the moment passed. But Jennifer didn't stop. She faced forward, but I saw her glance back at Marcus again. Twice, her expression looked like shock she was trying to hide, like she knew something, or thought she did. I leaned close to Marcus and whispered, "What was she looking at?" He squeezed my hand lightly. "Nothing you need to worry about. She recognized me. Let it go. For now." For now? That phrase sat heavy in my chest. Up on stage, my father started wrapping up. "But enough about business," he said. "Let's talk about what really matters. Family." Then he reached his hand out to my mom. She stood and walked up, like she'd practiced this moment. "Helen," he said, "would you like to say a few words?" My mom took the microphone like a pro, smiling like she was about to perform. "Thank you, darling," she said sweetly. She scanned the room, and then her eyes locked on me. I knew that look. It never ended well. And right then, something from earlier hit my mind. 3 hours before the party, while we were getting ready, Marcus did something strange. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a plain white envelope, thick, official looking, and slid it into the inside pocket of his suit jacket. I asked, "What's that?" He said, "Insurance." "Insurance for what?" He looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "For you. In case they go too far." I didn't ask what was inside. I didn't want to know. Part of me hoped we'd never need it. But sitting there now, watching my mother hold that mic with that sharp smile, I thought about that envelope again. What kind of insurance did Marcus bring? And what did he think my family was capable of tonight? Then my mother lifted her chin and said, "I want to say something about family. About the people who make everything worth it." Her eyes moved around the room. Warmly at Madison, politely at the guests, and then back to me, with something that looked a lot like disgust. "Robert and I have been blessed," my mother said, smiling like she was giving an award speech. "Truly blessed. Our youngest, Madison, has made us so proud, following in her father's footsteps, building an empire." Madison lifted her glass like a celebrity. Cameras flashed again. Then my mom's smile shifted. "And then there's Diana." My stomach tightened. "Our eldest chose a different path," she said sweetly, but it didn't feel sweet at all. "She teaches elementary school. 3rd grade, I think. Or is it 2nd now?" "3rd," I whispered to myself. But of course no one could hear me from table 14. My mother paused for effect, like she knew she had the room. "But you know what? At least she found a husband." The room chuckled. Then she added slowly, clearly enjoying it, "Even if we don't really know what he does for a living." The ballroom exploded in laughter, and something inside me cracked. Not my heart, my patience. The kind of patience I'd trained myself to have for years. Beside me, Marcus slowly reached into his suit jacket. The laughter rolled through the room like a wave. Some people covered their mouths. Others didn't even try. My dad took the microphone back, still smiling. Now, Helen," he joked, "be nice." But he was enjoying it too. "Diana has her own talents," he said, using talents the way you talk about a difficult child's habits. Then he went on like he was teaching a lesson. "Some people are meant to lead," he said grandly, "and others are meant to support." Diana has always been a supporter. I sat frozen. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't a speech anymore. It felt like a public execution. We tried to guide her, my father continued. We offered her roles at the company. We offered to pay for an MBA. But Diana chose, well, whatever it is she chose. People made those fake sympathetic sounds. Poor Robert. What a shame. But that's family, right? My father said, lifting his glass. You love them anyway. Even when they don't meet expectations. The room raised their glasses. To family, he said. 150 glasses lifted in response, and there I was, sitting near the kitchen while everyone toasted to my failure. Then I realized Marcus wasn't holding my hand anymore. I turned and saw his chair empty. He was standing. Marcus, I whispered, panic in my throat. What are you doing? He didn't answer. He just started walking. Calm, steady, each step on purpose, straight toward the stage. Heads turned, whispers spread like sparks. Who is that? What's he doing? My father noticed and his smile slipped. Can I help you? He asked into the mic. Marcus stepped up onto the stage, like he belonged there. He looked out at all those faces. Investors, partners, rich friends, people who didn't know him at all. Then he leaned into the microphone. May I have a moment? The room went silent, like someone pulled the plug on the noise. My father's confusion turned into irritation. I'm sorry, he said. Who are you? Marcus didn't flinch. I'm Marcus, Diana's husband. The one you don't know anything about. A few nervous laughs popped up, then died quickly. My mother stepped forward and reached for the mic. This really isn't the time. I think this is exactly the time, Marcus said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Every word sharp and controlled. My father forced a polite smile for the crowd. Marcus, is it? Why don't we talk later? Privately, Marcus looked him right in the eye. No, that one word landed hard. Then Marcus continued. For 4 years, I've sat at the back of your holiday dinners. I've listened to your wife make jokes about my work. I've watched you treat your own daughter like she's less than everyone else. He paused and looked across the ballroom at me. His eyes weren't angry. They were sad. And I stayed quiet because Diana asked me to. He turned back to them. But I'm not staying quiet anymore. My mother let out a tight, bitter laugh. This is ridiculous. Helen gets security. Marcus lifted a hand calmly. No need. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to introduce myself properly. Since your family never bothered to. That's when Madison pushed through the crowd, still holding her champagne. This is insane, she said loudly. Who does this guy think he is? Marcus nodded like it was fair. Great question. Thanks for asking. He reached toward his inside pocket and my heart stopped, because I thought he was pulling out that envelope. But he didn't. Not yet. Instead, he straightened his tie, faced the crowd and said, My name is Marcus Smith Parker. Jennifer Walsh made a sound like a gasp she couldn't hold back. Her hand flew to her mouth. Marcus kept going, calm as ever. And I think some of you may have heard of my company. The entire room felt like it held its breath. Even my father looked uncertain now. What company? He asked, trying to stay in control. Marcus smiled slightly, like he'd been waiting for that. But before he could answer, Madison grabbed the microphone and stepped in front of him. Okay, that's enough, she snapped, turning to the crowd like she was saving the night. Then she pointed toward me. Diana, come get your husband, he's embarrassing himself. Marcus didn't move. I'm not finished, he said. Madison rolled her eyes. Yes, you are. Her voice was dripping with that same smug tone she always used. Look, I get it. You feel attacked because we said the obvious, but let's be honest. Then she turned to the crowd, performing now. Diana married a guy who probably makes less than my assistant. And that's fine. Not everyone can aim high. Someone actually laughed. Loud, ugly, from the back. Madison smiled like she fed off it. Maybe he's a tutor. Maybe he grades papers. Whatever working in education means, she said, making fake air quotes. But the point is, tonight is Dad's night, not your night. So please, sit down, go back to your little corner, and let the adults finish celebrating. She shoved the microphone toward Marcus, expecting him to take it and back down. He didn't. He took the microphone gently and he smiled. Not a mean smile, not a revenge smile, just calm. You're right, he said. This wasn't my night. He looked at my parents, but it became my night the moment you publicly humiliated my wife in front of 150 people. Madison scoffed. Oh my God, so dramatic. Marcus ignored her completely. Yes, I work in education, he said, but I don't grade papers, and I don't tutor. He paused and let the silence grow. Then he said, I build educational platforms, technology that helps millions of children learn. Jennifer Walsh was nodding now, her face pale. I knew it, she whispered to someone near her. I knew I recognized him. Madison's smirk flickered, like a light going out. What are you talking about? Marcus lifted his chin. My company is called EduSpark. Someone in the crowd gasped, and in that second, everything changed. And I need to pause here for 1 second, because I know you're probably yelling at your screen right now. I was screaming inside too. If you're locked into this story, hit like. It seriously helps. And I want to ask you something. Have you ever been embarrassed by your own family in public? Tell me in the comments. Because what happens next? Even I didn't see coming. Now back to that ballroom. The name EduSpark moved through the room like electricity. I watched it spread in real time. Confusion. Then recognition. Then shock. A guy at table 3 pulled out his phone and started typing like crazy, then showed his wife. Her eyes went wide. A woman near the stage put her hand over her chest. Jennifer Walsh was already standing. She turned toward my father and said loudly, Robert, do you have any idea who this is? My father looked honestly lost. What? EduSpark? Jennifer repeated. The education tech company? The room started murmuring harder. They were just valued at $200 million, she said. It was on the cover of Forbes 3 months ago. The whispers turned into a wave. 200 million? Forbes? Madison's face went from smug to confused to pure fear. That's not possible, she stammered. Marcus didn't raise his voice. I assure you, he said calmly. It's very possible. My mother grabbed my father's arm. Robert? Did you know? My dad's control cracked. Of course I didn't know. Diana never told us. Marcus cut him off, sharp and simple. You never asked. You never asked, Marcus said, and his voice cut through the room like a blade. In 4 years, not once did any of you ask me a real question about my work, my life, anything. He stepped forward and the spotlight followed him. You decided I was nothing, because I don't brag, because I don't drop big names, because I don't flash money, because I sat quietly at your holiday dinners and didn't try to impress you? The ballroom was dead silent now. No one moved. No one even coughed. Last year, Forbes named me one of their 30 under 30 in education. Marcus continued. I've been interviewed by CNN, MSNBC, and the Wall Street Journal. I've had lunch with senators. I've shaken hands with 2 presidents. Then he looked straight at Madison. And no, I don't make less than your assistant. But even if I did, that still would not excuse what you just said about my wife. Jennifer Walsh pushed her way closer to the front, looking almost angry. I knew I recognized you, she said. You were on TechCrunch last summer. The article about making education fair for everyone. Marcus gave a small nod. That's right. Jennifer turned to my father, like she couldn't believe him. Robert, you've been talking about getting into education technology for months. The opportunity was literally sitting at your dinner table. My father's face tightened, panic, trying to hide behind pride. We didn't, you never bothered to find out? Marcus finished for him. Then Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out the white envelope, the one he called insurance. My heart slammed in my chest. He opened it and pulled out a thick, official paper. But that's not why I'm up here, he said. This is a contract. He held it up so people could see. A $5 million grant to fund STEM programs in underprivileged schools across Massachusetts. The number moved through the crowd like a shockwave. 5 million. Did he say 5 million? Marcus looked over at me, and his eyes softened. And the first school receiving it is Lincoln Elementary. Diana School. Tears rolled down my face before I could stop them. Not because of money, not because of status, but because for the first time in my life, Someone was standing in front of my family and saying loud and clear that I mattered. Marcus turned back to my parents. Your daughter teaches kids who have almost nothing, he said. She shows up every day for children. Society forgets. She buys supplies with her own money. She stays late to help struggling readers. She changes lives. His voice cracked just a little. And you call her a disappointment? You call her a supporter? He shook his head slowly. Diana is one of the reasons I built EduSpark, because I saw what teachers like her do, and I wanted to give them tools they deserve. My father looked gray. My mother was clutching her pearls like she couldn't breathe. Marcus lifted the contract again, making sure everyone could see the EduSpark logo at the top, his signature at the bottom, and Lincoln Elementary's name highlighted. This isn't charity, he said. This is an investment, because what Diana does matters. What every teacher does matters. Then he stepped away from the microphone and walked toward me. The crowd silently moved aside, like water. I stood up, legs shaking. Not sure I could even stay standing. When Marcus reached me, he took both my hands. I'm sorry I didn't do this sooner, he whispered. I kept hoping they'd finally see you. The real you. The way I see you. I couldn't even speak. My throat was tight with emotion. He smiled at me gently. I've never been prouder to be your husband. Behind us, I heard my mother's voice trembling. Diana, honey, why didn't you tell us? And there it was. The question that showed everything wrong with my family. I turned to face her. My dad stood stiff beside her. Madison had backed away like she wanted to disappear into the walls. I looked my mother in the eyes and asked, would it have mattered? My mom blinked. Shocked. Of course it would have. Really, I felt something settle inside me. Not anger, not hate. Clarity. You've been putting me down for 32 years. You've made me feel small at every chance. You just called my husband a nobody in front of everyone you know. I gestured around the room. If Marcus was actually broke, if he really was a tutor making minimum wage, would that suddenly make how you treated us? Okay. My mom opened her mouth and then closed it. She had nothing. Exactly? I said. Marcus squeezed my hand, supporting me, but he didn't speak for me. This was my voice now. My father stepped forward, and I saw his business brain kick in even through the shock. Marcus, I had no idea we should talk. Maybe there's a partnership. Marcus cut him off, with one simple word. No, the word hung in the air like a door slamming shut. My father tried again. But this is exactly the kind of opportunity. Marcus stayed calm, but unmovable. The opportunity was 4 years ago, he said. When you could have treated your daughter with respect. When you could have asked me one real question instead of assuming I was beneath you. My father sputtered, trying to defend himself. We didn't assume. I stepped forward. You set us by the kitchen, I said. You sent emails telling Madison to keep us away from your important guests. My mother's face went pale like she forgot those words could come back to her. How did you? She started. You accidentally forwarded it to me, I said, and I watched them exchange a look, because for the first time, they had no excuse, no story, no way to spin it, just the truth. My mother tried one last move. We can start over, she said quickly. Family is family. I tilted my head. Is it? I stepped closer, voice steady. Because you've spent my whole life making me feel like I'm not really part of this family. Like I'm embarrassing. Like I'm charity. My mom's eyes filled with tears. Diana, you said you don't know what my husband does for a living. I continued. But the truth is, you never cared enough to ask. Not once. About him. About me. About what we're building. Somewhere behind us, Madison snapped. This is so unfair. How are we supposed to know? Marcus turned his head slightly toward her. You weren't supposed to know, he said. You were supposed to be decent. That shouldn't require a Forbes article. The room stayed silent, watching everything. My father looked around at his guests, his partners, the people he'd spent his life trying to impress, now all staring at him. He said tightly, perhaps we should continue this in private. I shook my head. No, I said. I'm done doing things privately. Then I walked toward the stage. Marcus walked with me, his hand gently on my back, supporting, not leading. When I reached the microphone, I looked out at the crowd. All these people I'd been trained to impress, to perform for, to never disappoint. And suddenly I realized I was done performing. I am Diana Parker, I said, the disappointing daughter. A nervous little ripple of laughter moved through the room. I didn't smile. For 32 years, I've tried to earn my parents' approval. I chose a job I love, and they called it a waste. I married a man I love, and they called him a nobody. I pointed slightly toward the back. I showed up to every holiday, every birthday, every event. And they sat me by the kitchen. My voice stayed steady, stronger than I expected. Tonight, you found out my husband is successful by their definition of success, wealthy, famous, powerful. I looked straight at my parents. But here's the truth. That should change nothing. I paused. The way they treated me was wrong before you knew about EduSpark. And the fact that they suddenly care now that money and connections are involved, proves exactly what I've always known. My mom was crying. Real tears. Or performance tears. I honestly couldn't tell anymore. Diana, please. I'm not finished, I said, and she went quiet. I have a life that matters. I have a job that matters. I have a husband who loves me, and I built all of it without their approval. I took a breath. From now on, respect is the minimum requirement. Not optional, not based on who I'm married to, just basic respect. I looked at Madison, at my mother, at my father. If you can give me that, we can try again. If you can. I reached for Marcus's hand. Then this is goodbye. Then we turned and we walked out. 150 people watched us leave, and for the first time, I didn't care what they thought. We didn't speak until we got in the car. Marcus drove. I stared out the window, watching city lights blur through my tears. After a while he asked softly, "Are you okay?" I shook my head. "I don't know," I admitted. "I feel empty. Like I've been carrying something heavy for years and I finally set it down." Marcus reached over and took my hand. "That's not empty," he said. "That's light." I let out a strange laugh, wet and broken. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Finally I looked. 23 missed calls, 14 from my mom, 6 from my dad, 3 from Madison. Voicemails stacked up. I played the first one from my mother. "Honey, please come back. This was all a misunderstanding. We need to talk." Misunderstanding. Like she accidentally spilled a drink, not broke her daughter in public. My father's voicemail was shorter. "Marcus seems like a great guy. Let's have dinner. I have some ideas about." I deleted it before he could finish turning it into business. Madison's text was the most honest of all. I read it out loud to Marcus. "I can't believe you hid this from us." "That's so selfish." Marcus shook his head slowly. "Selfish," he repeated. "She still thinks she's the victim." "Of course she does," I whispered. I turned my phone off and let the silence fill the car. After a minute I asked him, "Do you regret it staying quiet for so long?" He thought for a second. "Sometimes," he admitted. Then he squeezed my hand. "But I didn't do it for them. I did it for you. Because you asked me to." I nodded. "I know." I stared ahead at the dark road. I thought about my mother's face, my father's panic, Madison's shock, and I said quietly, "Tonight?" I finally said what I needed to say. Marcus glanced at me. "Are you glad?" I breathed out. "Not yet," I admitted, "but I think I will be." The fallout started the next morning. Jennifer Walsh called Marcus at 8 a.m. and listened from the kitchen while making coffee. "I want to apologize for last night," she said. "I had no idea Robert's family would act like that. It was honestly awful." Marcus kept it calm. "It wasn't your fault," Jennifer continued. "Still, I've been trying to get a meeting with EduSpark for 6 months. I kept going through Robert because I thought he had connections." She gave a tight little laugh. "Turns out the connection was sitting at his daughter's table." Then she said, "When you're ready, I'd love to talk partnership." When the call ended, Marcus looked at me. "Jennifer was my father's biggest potential investor," I said quietly. Marcus nodded. "She called him right after she called me and pulled out of his development project. I thought I would feel satisfied. I didn't. But I didn't feel guilty either." Over the next week, the story spread through Boston's business world like wildfire. Robert Parker's family publicly embarrassed a $200 million CEO at his own retirement party. Not just any CEO, one who'd been on Forbes, on CNN. The image was brutal. Two deals my father had been working on for months fell apart. People said they were concerned about judgment and reputation. In business, I learned reputation is money. That same week, Madison was quietly taken off the Henderson project. Too awkward, apparently. She blamed me. Of course, she sent me long, angry texts about how I ruined everything. I didn't respond. The weirdest call came from my father's company PR team. They asked if Marcus would consider a joint statement, something about healing the family and moving forward together. Marcus said, "No. There's nothing to spin," he told them. The truth is the truth. A week after the party, my Uncle George called. George is my father's older brother, the one who left Parker Real Estate years ago to become a high school principal, the one my dad used to call the family disappointment. Before I took that title, Diana, Uncle George said, and his voice felt warm like home. I heard about the party. I'm sure you did, I said. He sighed. I've been telling Robert for years he was wrong about you. Something loosened in my chest. You have, every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every time you made some comment about your little teaching job. He paused. He never listened. Your father only hears what he wants. I thought about all those dinners where Uncle George sat quiet in the corner, while my dad acted like king of the table. Why didn't you ever say anything to me? I asked. Uncle George's voice softened. Because I didn't want to interfere. And honestly, I wasn't sure you'd believe me. Then he said, but what Marcus did? Standing up for you like that? That took courage. And what you did standing up for yourself at the end? That took even more. That's when I started crying. Not sad crying, something else. Relief. Release. I'm proud of you, Uncle George said. I always have been. I just wish I said it more. Thank you, I whispered. And Diana, he added. Family isn't blood. Family is who shows up for you. His voice cracked a little. Marcus showed up. And so did you, for yourself. After I hung up, Marcus found me on the couch, still crying. Good tears? He asked gently. Good tears. I nodded. He sat beside me and wrapped an arm around my shoulders. Not everyone in your family stopped caring, he said. I know, I whispered. I'm finally starting to see it. Quick question for you. Are you team Diana should forgive her parents? Or team they need to earn it? I really want to know. Drop your answer in the comments. And if you made it this far, you're clearly invested. So hit subscribe if you haven't, because the ending might surprise you. Now let me tell you what happened next. 3 weeks later, when I finally agreed to see my parents again, I picked a coffee shop, neutral, public, safe enough that they'd have to behave. They were already there when I arrived, and they looked smaller, older. My father wore a polo shirt instead of his usual suit. My mother didn't have any jewelry on. That alone told me something. I sat across from them. Marcus offered to come with me, but I said no. This was something I needed to do on my own. My dad cleared his throat, like he rehearsed it. Thank you for meeting us, he said. And thank you for choosing a place you feel comfortable. Thank you for respecting my boundaries, I replied. Silence sat between us. Then my mom started, voice shaky. Diana, we want to start over. I nodded once. Starting over means admitting what you did wrong. Another pause. They exchanged looks. My father finally said, we were hard on you. Because we wanted more for you. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. No, I said. You were hard on me because I didn't fit your definition of success. That's different. My mom's eyes filled again. We wanted you to have security, she said. A stable future. I leaned back slightly. I do have security. I have stability. Just not the kind you respect. We respect you, my mom insisted. I lifted a hand. You called my husband a nobody, in front of 150 people. You sat us by the kitchen. You sent emails about keeping us away from your important guests. My mother looked down. She had nothing to say. I'm not asking for apologies, I continued. Words are easy. I'm asking for change. My father asked quietly, what kind of change? Basic respect, I said. Real questions, real interest in my life, not only when it benefits you. I looked at both of them. I'm giving you a chance. But it's conditional respect first. Always. My mom nodded fast. My dad cleared his throat. We can do that, he said. We'll Do that. We'll see, I said honestly. That night, Marcus and I sat on our balcony with the city lights below us and a bottle of wine between us, half gone. He looked at me and asked, "How do you feel?" I thought for a long time. Like, I'm finally starting over. I said, "Not with them. With me." Marcus nodded. "Any regrets?" "Only that I waited so long." I leaned against him, feeling his steady warmth. Then I laughed softly. "You know what's weird?" "What?" he asked. "All those years I thought I needed their approval to be happy," I said. "To feel like I mattered." I looked out at the city. And now I realize. I always mattered. I just needed to believe it myself. Marcus kissed the top of my head. "You've changed thousands of kids' lives," he said. "You show up every day for students nobody else fights for. That matters." I nodded. "I know, and for the first time, I truly meant it." We sat in comfortable silence. The sounds of the city drifted up. Cars in the distance, someone laughing, a dog barking. Marcus finally asked, "So what happens next?" I smiled. "We keep building," I said. "The school program. Our life. Whatever comes." I squeezed his hand together. Always together. I thought about my students. About Emma learning to read. About the STEM program that would change everything. About the life I built with my own hands and my own heart. I thought about my parents too. Maybe they'd change, maybe they wouldn't, but either way, I was done waiting for anyone to validate me. The people who love you don't make you prove your worth. They celebrate it. Marcus taught me that. And now I was finally teaching it to myself. I looked at him and said, "You know what?" He smiled. "What?" I smiled back. Really smiled. "I think I'm going to be okay." And for the first time in 32 years, I meant it. And that's my story. Thank you for staying with me to the very end. If this hit home. If you've ever felt unseen by the people who were supposed to see you the most. Please remember. Your worth is not up for debate. If you enjoyed this, subscribe and check out another story in the description. And tell me in the comments. What would you have done if you were me? See you in the next one.